Go ahead.
I do. So I do actually have something to say. So in the case of circumcision, I've heard that the biggest advantage that I've heard was basically cleanliness. It's a little bit easy to keep everything clean. However, I feel like just a quick tutorial on how to clean a wiener would be, very sufficient. But and then the on the other side, not circumcising, I've heard maintain sensitivity, because you're not constantly rubbing up against things, like your clothes and stuff like that. So because it's protected, it's more sensitive, and sexual intercourse is more pleasurable.
Yeah, and now I've heard, just to play devil's advocate here, I've also heard on that same line of thinking that people might have some concern because they think it would make them too sensitive and they might not last as long. And so, if you're circumcised, you can last longer in bed, and it would be more. I don't know if I buy that. I don't even know if that's scientific, but I have heard that several times when that issue came up. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
I see you shaking your head, Sonny.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
if
but
5 minutes is good, then I'm a dynamo.
If that was the case, then we would have a hell of a lot more satisfied women. Just saying, because there are a lot of circumcised men out there from my generation, and a lot of 3-minute quick people. So I'm just saying, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I do want to say that my generation, I have actually apologized to my biological son. I have 3 step boys, and then I have my own biological son, and then I have a daughter. I've apologized to my son for having him circumcised he's 21, almost 22 now. And at the time when he was born,
you don't look old enough to have a 22-year-old kid. I just thought I would throw that out there.
Thank you.
That always blows my mind when you say that. But, sorry, go on. I interrupted you.
That's okay. I can hear that all the time. I'll be happy to hear that. When he was born, there wasn't even a question. There was not a debate. It was just, you did it. I don't recall even being asked. It was just what happened. And so, I think that's important to think about, that times have changed. Now I look back at that and it's like, my goodness, talk about bodily autonomy. I can't even fathom making that same decision today. But back then it was just what you did. And then you had to make sure to keep it clean when you brought the baby home, and, disinfect and look for infection and all of that stuff. Well, you wouldn't have to look for infection if you didn't.
Yeah, seems like more work. If you have to do all that. Is that? I'm going to get to you in a moment, Damien. But Oz, was that a similar motivation for you? When you had, it was just because that's what was done and it wasn't really questioned.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, and just for clarity, so the 1, 2, 3, 4 of us, I believe, are American. And Sonny, you live in kind of the South, and Oz, you're like in the Bible Belt area, I believe, right?
Well, the Midwest. So
Midwest.
Bible Belt Junior. Yeah.
Right. And I know that in the United States, because the rate of how popular circumcision varies depending on where you are in the United States. It's a lot less common here on the West Coast, but in the Midwest and then the South, I've looked up the statistic. It's like almost, at least when I was growing up in the previous generation, or in our generation, I guess, it was almost like everybody, if you were born there, everybody was just kind of circumcised if you were male. So.
Yep. And real quick so I don't forget, come back to this. I was doing a little research before the show, and there's a Christian blog site. It's called Reasons to Believe, and
I'm aware of that. Is that Hugh Ross's organization?
I forget.
I believe it is. But go on.
But this is well, I'll just read, it's not long at all. It's like 2 or 3 sentences. Is the foreskin a flawed design? As it turns out, circumcision provides clear medical benefits, offering a rationale for the practice that goes beyond religious ceremony. For example, in recent years, biomedical researchers have discovered that circumcision, 1, prevents the spread of AIDS, 2, prevents cancer of the penis, and 3, prevents cervical cancer. There you have it. Chop them off.
And it's coming from a Christian website, so it's the godly thing to do, right? I don't know why Reasons to Believe would be promoting that, because as far as I'm aware, circumcision is a Jewish thing. That's something that it's talked about in the Old Testament, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut that sinful wiener in half.
Damien, you are Australian. What is the prevalence?
indeed.
What is the prevalence of male circumcision in Australia? If you are aware, I don't know if you would know that off the top of your head. But.
Not very prevalent at all, especially nowadays. I think it's a similar thing to the US when, like, maybe generations past, it was I wouldn't necessarily say assumed, but it was, I'll say, common. But nowadays, it is more the only reason you would be circumcised is if you're one of the other Abrahamic monotheistic faiths,
Right.
or for a medical reason. And out of all the people I know, there's only one person I know who's circumcised, and that was for a medical reason.
Yeah. Right.
So,
And-
in a way, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as Murdershed Steve, in that, like, if you really did want to make that decision as an adult, go ahead and do it. It is your body. If you want to put pieces of metal through your face, okay. If you want to cut a little piece of skin off your wiener, and only you and your intimate partners will see it, okay, that's up to you. But for religious reasons. Or for the idea that a God will not accept you unless you've lost a quarter of an inch off of your dong, then I think we may need to rethink this God's priorities.
Yeah. I was looking up. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit, because if I'm not mistaken, and I very well might be, Bryce, you might be able to correct me on this, but in the Old Testament, technically, isn't circumcision a rite of passage into manhood?
Not exactly. So Abraham was commanded to have his offspring circumcised because it's part of the what they call the Old Covenant, the covenant between God and the Jewish people. Abraham was going to be the father of the Jews. He was deemed righteous by God. God promised him a nation, and so part of Abraham keeping that promise was that all of the males in his household, all of his male slaves, all of the males that were imported into the Jewish covenant would be circumcised to honor that, right? So it was something that he was supposed to ensure was passed down generationally.
So that's fine, because it doesn't have a timestamp on it, right?
What do you mean?
Like let's say you just made a little brisk ceremony when you're 18 instead of, you know what I'm saying? Just so
so that's
consenting adults doing this thing.
Steve, you're talking logic now. You
shucks.
started off talking the Bible, and now you're trying to shift to logic, right? Yeah. So that's part of the problem.
Just saying, there's nothing in the Bible that says that you can't do it when you're 18 instead of.
Yeah, I think Jews would be resistant to this because the traditional interpretation is that the commandment was given to Abraham to have his sons circumcised. So, like, he's not telling, yes, he's telling you if you are Jewish and you are to be part of the covenant. Like, if you converted to Judaism, or if I converted to Judaism, we would have to be circumcised in part of the religious tradition. However, if you were to have a kid born in the Jewish community, it's your duty as a parent to ensure that they are circumcised so that they can be included into the covenant.
Yeah, and
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, let's make it about about how dedicated are you to this God. Let's do it later when it sucks.
And there are some, I don't want to stereotype the entire Jewish faith or Jewish community, because there's a lot of Jewish people who aren't doing it anymore. There's, first of all, there's secular Jews, right? There's atheist Jews. There's Reformed Jews. There's different denominations of Jews that don't adhere to the religious aspects that much. There are alternatives to the bris ceremony, the bris or the bris. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. I've heard it said both ways, but they do a similar ceremony without the cutting, so some of them, not all Jewish people are for circumcision, just traditional Jews, conservative Jews, Orthodox, they still do it. And a lot of times they do it in a very strange way that has had some harmful, that's had a harmful impact as well.